Just in while we're live, Taylor Swift is having bad blood with Blake Lively. I am not your dragon. I knew. Secret footage has been released that reveals that Blake Lively was working with Taylor Swift the whole time. If this is real, Blake Lively, you deserve all of this. This is a reckoning she needs to hear. This isn't bullying. This isn't harassment. This is accountability, girl.
Taylor Swift never signed up for this, but when her name appeared in Blake Lively's explosive lawsuit used as a silent weapon in a battle, she knew nothing about. Everything shifted now. The fallout is unraveling. Depositions, our looming secret footage is surfacing, and one of Hollywood's most beloved friendships may have just become its most public implosion.
Blake Lively's claims that she was allegedly harassed by this guy when they shot the movie It Ends With Us, a film about domestic violence.
What began as a quiet storm behind the scenes of a major film production has erupted into one of the most high-profile and polarizing legal battles Hollywood has seen in years. Blake Lively, acclaimed actress, producer, and cultural figure, has stepped into a legal firestorm with a lawsuit that raises more questions than it answers and may have implications far beyond the courtroom.
You call your friend and go, yo, I'm in trouble. I need help. I need backup. You don't do that without talking to them. You know what I mean?
Right. People are putting snake emojis. Taylor hates snakes. Kim Kardashian, all these people who manipulate her.
The controversy centers around the upcoming film adaptation of It Ends With Us, the much-anticipated drama directed by Justin Baldoni. Lively's lawsuit filed in California. Superior Court accuses Baldoni of sexual harassment and workplace retaliation during the film's production, but the language of the complaint immediately caught the attention of legal analysts and entertainment reporters alike. Rather than laying out definitive claims, the suit hinges on what Lively believed to be Baldwin's inappropriate and predatory behavior. Legal experts suggest this may have been a deliberate tactic to avoid potential liability for perjury, an approach that, while legally sound, raised eyebrows among critics who felt the complaint was more suggestive than substantive.
Kind of lawsuit that is full of evidence, admissions, documents, which prove exactly what she did and how she bullied her way through the process to take over the movie and used her PR people to try and destroy Justin.
Adding to the complexity was Lively's decision to bypass the California Civil Rights Department's full investigative process. Instead of submitting to a formal inquiry, she and her team released a complaint directly to the New York Times, igniting a media frenzy. The move was bold, calculated, and unmistakably strategic, but also opened the door to skepticism. Was this about justice or narrative control?
This positive motion does not in of itself give rise to justification to warrant a stay.
Within days, Justin Baldoni issued a strong denial through his legal counsel, calling the allegations categorically false and deeply damaging. But the real escalation came when Baldoni filed a countersuit naming not just Lively, but also her husband, actor and entrepreneur Ryan Reynolds. The countersuit seeks $400 million in damages for alleged defamation and what Baldwin's legal team describes as a deliberate and malicious effort to destroy his career and reputation.
The source adds, it's weird to say that about a friend.
Yes,
100,000%. If you get around to watching Game of Thrones, you'll appreciate I'm Khaleesi, which is, by the way, she's not a good guy in the movie. She's a bad guy.
In an explosive twist, the countersuit claims Lively leveraged her extensive personal network to influence the production and media coverage of the incident. At the center of that network, according to Baldoni, is none other than Taylor Swift, described in the countersuit as one of Lively's dragons, a metaphor reportedly used within the production to refer to her close circle of influential allies who protect her interests and amplify her voice.
Because my dragons also protect those I fight for. So really, we all benefit from those gorgeous monsters of mine. You will too, I can promise you. That is so manipulative and shady and absolutely leveraging her relationship with Taylor Swift, no?
While Swift is not named as a defendant, in any legal filings or connection to Lively and proximity to the situation have fueled further speculation. According to multiple sources, a post-pre-production meeting at Liv's New York apartment meant to be a private gathering became a flashpoint. Baldoni arrived unexpectedly, and Swift, allegedly unaware he would be present, reportedly left the meeting feeling blindsided and deeply uncomfortable.
She doesn't want that in her life. People who are using her. She feels like she was leveraging her name, as we reported.
The incident has intensified public scrutiny, with fans and media outlets dissecting every detail for deeper meaning. Was Swift misled into attending a setup? Was Baldwin attempting a confrontation? To shift the balance of power, the ambiguity has only fanned the flames.
Tape something quick here, because look at this. Taylor Swift feels like she was used by Blake Lively in her war with Justin Baldoni. She resents Blake calling her one of her dragons and leveraging her name.
Behind-the-scenes industry insiders are growing increasingly concerned about the broader implications the lawsuit, countersuit, and media coverage have cast a shadow over It Ends With Us, a film once positioned to be a prestige adaptation. With significant awards potential now, its future hangs in the balance, and stakeholders from investors to marketing teams are reassessing their strategies, or he had to fight back using all the receipts he had, knowing Blake wouldn't give up, lying to end his career. For Lively, the stakes could not be higher. This lawsuit may represent her most public and personal challenge, yet known for her meticulous control over her public image and brand, she now finds herself in the unpredictable terrain of litigation, where narratives are shaped not by stylists or publicists, but by sworn statements and courtroom testimony. As for Baldoni, the countersuit suggests a belief that he too has much to lose, and perhaps more to prove. Once celebrated for his roles in projects that promoted empathy and emotional depth, he now finds his reputation under siege and his directorial future uncertain. Considering Blake was prepared to finish him in legal fees, Justin Baldwin's net worth is between $4 to $6 million. In comparison, Blake is worth $30 million, and her husband Ryan Reynolds is worth $350 million. Meanwhile, Ryan Reynolds, until now largely silent on the matter, has been drawn into fray as a named defendant in the counter. His involvement raises significant questions about what role, if any, played behind the scenes. Was he merely a supportive spouse or a strategic partner in events that unfolded? Ultimately, the case will hinge not just on facts, but on perception, how the court interprets the evidence, and how the public digests the story. The legal teams are undoubtedly aware that they're not just presenting arguments to a judge, but to an audience of millions. Whether Lively's lawsuit proves to be a decisive blow against abuse and retaliation in Hollywood, or a high-rises gamble that backfires spectacularly, remains to be seen. One thing is clear: this is no longer a private dispute. It is a public reckoning where careers, reputations, and legacies are on the line.
Referring to you as their, monster little dragons that do bet for better or worse, yada, yada, yada. They'll help you too.
Blake Lively may have launched the first missile, but the explosion didn't just hit her target. It scorched the ground around her, catching even her closest allies in the crossfire. At the center of that fallout, Taylor Swift. What Lively may not have anticipated, or worse, didn't bother to consider, was how deeply this lawsuit would shake her inner circle. Swift, arguably the most powerful celebrity on the planet, found herself dragged into the chaos not as a willing participant, but as collateral damage.
The bad guy.
She's amazing up until the last season, and I reject the last season. It's not
spoiler
canon
alert,
to me.
because the last season kind of does suck. She turns into a psychopath. I happen to have a few dragons, for better or worse, but usually for better, because my dragons also protect those I fight for. So really, we all benefit from those gorgeous monsters of mine.
In one of the case's most explosive revelations, text messages submitted into evidence revealed Lively casually referring to Swift as one of her dragons. To the untrained eye, it might seem like a compliment, poetic even. But in context, it was damning. The phrase suggested that Swift wasn't just a friend, but a secret weapon, a mythical enforcer whose mere name could sway opinion, crush reputations, or shift the energy of a room. It was a reputation Blake had counted on and exploited.
One thing is clear: Taylor feels used. It's a huge falling out. Taylor is godmother to one of Ryan and Taylor's kids. Whoo!
But here's the catch: Taylor Swift never agreed to be a pawn in Blake Lively's war. According to insiders close to the singer, she had no prior knowledge of the lawsuit, the text, or the implication that her name would be used like a battering ram in a high-stakes legal battle. And when she found out, she was livid.
Ooh, I could see real bad blood brewing. Real bad blood is brewing, Kim. Look.
Taylor felt completely blindsided. One source shared like her friendship had been turned into a legal strategy. Without her consent, she doesn't do backdoor politics. And she certainly doesn't like being made to look like a silent co-conspirator. It didn't take long for the situation to escalate. What began as a whisper in legal documents soon exploded into a subpoena. Taylor Swift, one of the most notoriously private figures in the industry when it comes to legal matters, is now expected to be deposed.
Tape something quick here, because look at this. Taylor Swift feels like she was used by Blake Lively in her war with Justin Baldoni. She resents Blake calling her one of her dragons and leveraging her name. What did I say, Kim?
She's furious. Another source revealed she didn't sign up for any of this. She's not part of production. She's not part of the conflict. And yet now she's being pulled into it like a character in someone else's script. And it's not just about the deposition. It's about the optics for someone like Swift, whose brand is meticulously curated and whose moves are calculated down to the second. Being caught off guard publicly is more than just a PR nightmare. It's personal.
Taylor does, she has her own ego and she's not perfect. But I do know she doesn't like to be involved in drama that she hasn't specifically, said, I want to call this out. You know what I mean? So do you think this is true? Do you think Blake is now revealing too much of Taylor?
Behind the scenes, her legal team is reportedly on high alert, preparing for the possibility that her name will continue to be weaponized as the case unfolds. Meanwhile, fans have begun dissecting the subtle cues of myths, like here an untagged photo. Their public silence from someone is usually quick to defend her inner circle. Suddenly, the once untouchable bond between Lively and Swift is showing hairline fractures. Taylor doesn't play games like that. If you pull her into drama without her permission, especially legal drama, you might as well consider the friendship on ice.
She gave a song at a certain point because probably Blake asked, and she thought, oh, cool, yeah, and that was her friendly thing, right? And clearly they're close. But if I'm a friend and if you're my friend and you write this about me, I'll be honest, I'm definitely going to hold it. I'm definitely going to have some issues with you moving forward because this isn't appropriate. Go ahead.
The irony, Lively may have believed invoking Swift's name would bolster her credibility. Instead, it exposed a dangerous miscalculation in attempting to paint herself as protected by powerful friends. Blake may have overreached, turning one of her strongest alliances into an uneasy silence. And in Hollywood, silence speaks volumes.
And now she's in this mess for why? For what? And now there's plenty of evidence that shows, because of Blake, that she incorporated Taylor's notes. What did you think? Taylor did this, Taylor's song, yada, yada. Now Taylor's involved. And there was no reason for her to be involved. Why had she anything to do with this movie, Kim?
Whether Swift will continue to stand by her longtime friend or whether she'll choose to quietly step away remains to be seen. But one thing's clear, she didn't know she was in the war. And now that she's been dragged onto battlefield, she's not happy, because dragons don't like being summoned without consent. And when they breathe fire, it's rarely in the direction you expect.
It's questionable at minimum. And I would not be surprised if Taylor was upset about that. One of the things I've said through this whole thing I cannot reconcile is that Taylor has been such an advocate for people having creative control of their own projects.
Taylor Swift is no stranger to conflict. She spent years navigating the treacherous terrain of fame, power, and public scrutiny. But this time the storm wasn't her making when Blake Lively's lawsuit against Justin Baldoni exploded into headlines. It wasn't just the claims of sexual harassment that caught attention. Buried within the legal documents were texts and private messages that refer to Swift as one of Lively's dragons. According to insiders close to Swift, the revelation hit like a gut punch.
Sources say Taylor is also learning Blake has been inappropriate leveraging her name for a long time, like telling a young actress that Taylor cast her, which simply did not happen. Oh my God.
Taylor had no idea she was being referenced. In that way, one source revealed she wasn't briefed, wasn't consulted, her name was used without her knowledge or consent. And a Taylor that felt like a deep betrayal. Swift, known for her carefully curated public persona and command over her narrative, chose not to respond publicly. No cryptic lyrics, no Instagram statements, no subtle likes or unfollows. Instead, she let her silence speak. But behind the scenes, there was movement. Swift reportedly ended her friendship with Lively in private, not with dramatic blow-up, but with quiet finality. Sources say Lively attempted to reach out, offering a personal apology, but Swift remained unmoved.
I can't see her being the person that looks at a project like this, understanding how passionate Justin is about it and going, oh yeah, Blake, take it. It doesn't add up. Not to me.
She felt like her trust had been broken. It wasn't just about being dragged into a lawsuit. It was about being used. Taylor doesn't tolerate that. What made the situation even more explosive was the possibility of Swift being legally dragged into the courtroom, as Baldwin's team hinted. At deposing her, the media pounced, speculating whether Swift would be forced to testify under oath, and still Swift said nothing but those close to her insists she is ready for whatever comes. She has nothing to hide, and No reason to run if she's called, and she'll show up with clarity and truth, another source added. This isn't her scandal, it's not her lawsuit, but she understands the power of narrative and how dangerous it is when someone hijacks yours.
I could definitely see her not being happy with this, and
the silence may confuse some fans, but those who know Swift best understand it for what it is: a deliberate, powerful response, a refusal to play the game on someone else's terms. Blake, Lively once a staple in Swift's inner circle, is now conspicuously absent. There are no joint sightings, no birthday tributes, no whispered hints of reconciliation, just a clean, quiet break. And in a world where public feuds and social media sub-tweets have become the norm, Swift's restraint is the loudest move she could make. The question now is whether her silence will hold, or if when the time is right, the dragon will finally breathe fire.
There was a critical meeting at Blake and Ryan's penthouse with Justin to discuss a scene that Blake had rewritten for It Ends With Us. Justin has said the meeting got super heated and he felt ambushed because Ryan and Taylor showed up. But
behind the velvet-draped walls of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' swanky New York penthouse, what was meant to be an intimate get-together quickly spiraled into something far more calculated. According to Blake's version of events, Taylor Swift was fully briefed on the evening's agenda, a private discussion about the It Ends With Us controversy involving Justin Baldoni, but multiple insiders with knowledge of the situation say otherwise.